So there is the ASEAN-India Summit, which Jakarta is hosting. This is, remember, in many ways, the East Asia references that will be found here. And that's a beautiful setup that has been made, signifying the island beauty of Indonesia. Prime Minister Modi is their first visual of arriving. And this is going to be, remember, very crucial with regard to our Act East policy. And there appears to be now, of course, the first signatures there, a message as well by Prime Minister Modi. Indonesia and India, remember, have a strong historical connect. And specifically when Indonesia gained their independence from the Dutch and decided to give their country this name, it had clearly a connect with regard to the Indian history as well. Their national emblem is the Garuda. They take a lot of pride in the references of Ramayana with regard to Indonesia, even as it stands today. The modern Indonesia, very proud of its historical identity as well. And that perhaps is found as and when one goes and visits Indonesia, that is very visible, the kind of relationship it holds. So Prime Minister Modi arrived in Indonesia. This was in the morning to attend the ASEAN-India Summit. It's the East Asia Summits as well. There will be, we are being told, future contours of India's partnership with the countries that are strategically important. This region will be very crucial with regard to India and other countries, and that also is going to be the prime focus. I want to read out a statement that has been put out by Prime Minister Modi. Landed in Jakarta, looking forward to the ASEAN-related meetings and to be working with various leaders for making a better planet.
जैसे विडोडो साहब और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी दोनों ही और यहां से अब आसियान को कैसे आगे बढ़ाया जाए comprehensive strategic partnership.
Joining me is my colleague Paulomi Saha for the latest. Paulomi, Indonesia was the G20 president host last year, when from where India also got its rotating schedule presidency this time. But Indonesia is not just another country for India. It has a historical connect and a symbolism that connects it to India in many different ways than other countries. But tell us more about ASEAN Summit, because to go to Indonesia a day before the G20 here clearly must be a lot of significance. Paulomi, can you hear me?
Could you please
yes, Paulomi, I was saying that because there's barely a day now to go for the G20 summit, and yet India is Indian Prime Minister choosing to go to Indonesia for the ASEAN summit must be a lot of significance, and also because Indonesia and India have a strong historical identity connect too.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is extremely significant, the Prime Minister's visit. He's only on a day trip, even shorter than a day trip, you know. He left last night from India. He is in Jakarta, and he is all set for, in fact, the 20th ASEAN-India Summit. And this is extremely important because, again, after this, he will also be participating in the 18th East Asia Summit. This is all part of the Act East policy of the Indian government, and especially Prime Minister Modi, who's made it a focal point of his foreign policy agenda. In fact, since, of course, he took office in Delhi, he has, in fact, put this at the center of things. And this basically also, just the fact that he is participating in this summit also is, in a way, the elevation of ties between India and, the Southeast Asian nations as well, the bloc of countries. The fact that they are being elevated to a level of comprehensive strategic partnership, which was done, in fact, last year as well. As you rightly pointed out, of course, we've taken over the presidency of the G20 from Indonesia, and, the culmination of it with us hosting the Leaders Summit is to take place over the weekend itself. So he's got his plate full, but clearly the fact that he's chosen to come back, at a time when he'll again go into bilaterals subsequent to that.
When the G20 also, that is going to be starting in the next about 48 hours, but within the next one day, there are the leaders that are going to set to arrive.
Well, the Prime Minister is expected back in India, in New Delhi at 6:30 p.m. this evening.
Okay.
So it's, like I said, it's shorter than a day's trip that he'll be spending in Jakarta, where he will, of course, be participating in the ASEAN-India Summit and the East Asia Summit as well. So he departs from Jakarta at about 3 p.m. India time
Yes.
at about 1 p.m. Jakarta time to be precise. And he lands in New Delhi at about 6:30 p.m. So clearly he's got an extremely packed schedule. In fact, the Prime Minister's office gave us a sense of how packed it is already looking. So yesterday, as you know, he participated in a Council of Ministers meeting where he briefed the Council about, the G20 preparation and what all they need to follow and how they need to, of course, represent India as they, of course, welcome foreign delegates and leaders into the country. He had back-to-back meetings till about 7:30 p.m. last evening. After the Council of Ministers meeting at 8 p.m., he departed for Jakarta. 7 hours flight time approximately to Jakarta. He lands in Jakarta at about 3 a.m. India time, and then, of course, straight away to the ASEAN-India Summit this morning, where he is at the moment, and he will participate in that. He will participate just subsequent to this in about an hour and 45 minutes time in the East Asia Summit as well. And immediately after this meeting, he will depart to the airport and in plane for Delhi. So clearly a very, very packed schedule. And tomorrow, as you know, President Biden and other leaders start arriving in India, and he already has 3 important bilateral schedules for tomorrow itself.
But look at the Indian diaspora, Paulami. The Indian diaspora in Indonesia, clearly enthusiastic. One of them said, we haven't slept the whole night. So clearly, of course, while Indian diaspora is always enthusiastic to receive Prime Minister Modi in Indonesia, it also reflected the sort of energy that Prime Minister Modi would have liked to see of the Indian diaspora.
Absolutely. Southeast Asian countries,
Correct.
There are a lot of Indians who reside in these countries as well, who are expats. And clearly, Indonesia is a country that the Prime Minister has visited on a few occasions. He has interacted with the Indian community over there. He's interacted with the Indian diaspora. And even though they know that the Prime Minister is here on a very tight schedule, he's here just to spend a few hours, attend 2 important meetings, and then get off again to New Delhi. They've been there through the night waiting for the Prime Minister to arrive so they can just catch a glimpse of him, because they do realize that his day starts very early in the morning at about 7 a.m. itself India time, where he attends the ASEAN-India Summit, and subsequent to that, like I said, the East Asia Summit. But clearly they did realize that it's going to be in the wee hours of the morning that they might catch him leaving again from his hotel for the meeting. But they're there.
And Paulami, as we stay on with these visuals, of course, the signatures, the messages, the interactions with the diaspora. And what a beautiful setup by Indonesia, I have to say. Not the usual boring protocol setups that are there for a joint photo opportunity. But looks like the island has been opened even in the inside area where that welcome was taking place.
Well, as we know, Indonesia and the Southeast Asian countries have very rich culture, very rich heritage that they showcase as well. Indonesia, Bali, these are countries that Indian tourists also frequent a lot as well. So they, in fact, are putting up that on display. Indonesia did a very good job when they hosted the G20 leaders in Bali last year itself. And again, you can see how much importance, like I said, this is an elevation of relations between India and Indonesia as well. How, in fact, these are the ASEAN countries who are opening up their doors, in fact, for India, basically. And this basically shows, how much, in fact, importance they accord to India, because the ASEAN members are Indonesia, Malaysia,